On this episode of Locked On Angels, what could the batting order look like for the Halos this season? We've got a couple to consider. One that highlights each hitter's best spot in the order, one built around analytics, and one that talks about situational hitting. So which one do you prefer? Which one does Ron Washington prefer? Let's talk about it. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Here for you 5 days a week. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com or download the app today.
Happy Friday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're gearing up for our fourth season here at Locked On Angels as the host. We're here for you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every single weekday, and we're gearing up for some spring training games. There's some yesterday, of course, some today, and the Angels play on Saturday, so we're looking forward to that. But before we get there on today's show, what could the batting order look like this season for the Halos? We've got a couple lineups for you to consider. One that highlights each hitter's best spot in the order, one that's analytically sound, and then there's one where we came across some interesting data this past week, so we're going to take that into consideration. Mike, let's start with the best spot in the order lineup.
Yeah, so quick caveat, we're taking plate appearances into consideration here, so that's the sample size, and it's substantial enough to back up the stats. We don't want someone with, 6 plate appearances at a particular spot. They hit 500, right? We want to take somebody that is actually doing really well for a long period of time. So, John, this is one that you actually mentioned when the Angels signed this guy, or at least traded for this guy. Leading off, Jorge Soler
That's right.
is actually somebody who does well and is a bit of a surprise. His most successful spot in his career and in 2024 was leading off. So let me give you some stats here. Slash line of 276, a 386 on base, a 513 slugging percentage, and an 899 OPS. John, in 184 plate appearances for him leading off, that was last year, 14.7 percentage is walk rate, a 388 WOBA, which is weighted on base average, and 152 weighted runs created plus. John, that was just last season.
Right.
And you don't think of Jorge Soler as a leadoff hitter initially. You think third, fourth, maybe fifth in the lineup. But John, last season was really great at the leadoff spot, wasn't he?
It was, and throughout his career, he's been really great there as well. A 258 career hitter out of the leadoff spot, 368 on base, 494 slugging, and an 861 OPS in 368 career plate appearances. That's good for a 370 weighted on base average, or WOBA, and a 136 weighted runs created plus. The only issue here, Mike, is Soler's K rate, 25.5% K rate from the leadoff spot last year. That's higher than his overall K rate in 2024 and about in line with his career 25.3% strikeout rate, but he does walk. And so that's an interesting thing. You got some pop and some on-base percentage from the leadoff spot there.
Yeah. Now, there just another caveat, right? A heads up. Wash did say that Taylor Ward is going to be his leadoff guy this season. And John, I think that's pretty good news because that's a good spot for Taylor Ward to be. In fact, I loved the discussion about him. Like, I'm going to get a fastball and I'm going to attack it. And people are like, are you showing your strategy? And he goes, I don't care. I know I'm going to get a fastball and I'm going to attack it.
Try me.
And right. And I love him at that spot. Now, historically, he's great at another spot. We'll talk about that later. But John, let's talk about who would bat second in this particular lineup. Your best spot in the lineup, batting second, goes to
Luis Rengifo, Mike. We've seen a couple different versions of Rengifo over the years, one that hits a lot of home runs, and then last year, one that hit for a good average and emphasized contact. Let's assume that he comes into 2025 being the same guy he was in 2024, and since that's the case, his best spot last year was second, a 290 batting average, 333 on base, 393 slugging, and a 726 OPS, 107 weighted runs created plus with 4 home runs, 16 stolen bases. I think that's key to being in the second spot. That's across 198 plate appearances, the most of any spot that he hit in last year.
Also a right and then left-handed hitter. So Solera's right, Rengifo, he's a switch hitter, so he'll be batting left most of the time. And then you're going back to a right-handed batter. Number 3, best spot in the order for this guy is Mike Trout. He's great at the third spot. In his career, John, 305, a 430 on base, a 584 slugging percentage, and over 1,014 OPS in over 2,000 plate appearances, a 174 weighted runs created plus. He's the best hitter in this spot, and this is kind of a traditional idea, traditional view, but Trout's numbers back it up, don't they?
They do, yeah, and so you can't argue with that. Great out of the leadoff spot, great at number 2, but number 3 historically has been his best spot in the order. Mike, we mentioned Taylor Ward earlier, but we're going to have him batting cleanup. Taylor Ward, if you take into account his 22 season, 23 and 24, batting cleanup actually comes out ahead of batting leadoff. He's been more consistent from the cleanup spot. In 2022, he had a 148 weighted runs created plus batting fourth versus 149 batting first. So batting first comes out ahead that first year. But then look at 2023, a 158 weighted runs created plus at fourth versus 86 batting first. He struggled in 2023 out of the leadoff spot. And then last year, 152 batting fourth for weighted runs created plus versus 140 batting first in 2024. So a better and more consistent weighted runs created plus from the cleanup spot over Ward's last 3 years as opposed to the leadoff spot. So batting cleanup, Taylor Ward.
Now, fifth is hard because of the remaining hitters, no one's really done well in the fifth spot in the order. So this name might actually be a surprise to our everydayers. But according to the numbers of the remaining hitters, the best fifth hitter is Kevin Newman. He had a career of career success at the fifth spot. However, last time he hit fifth was 2023, but it was a successful year. 270, 325 on base, 487 slugging, 812 OPS across 41 plate appearances. So again, small sample size, but of the remaining hitters, Kevin Newman is actually pretty successful, the most successful at spot number 5 in the lineup.
And then somebody who was successful at this spot, batting sixth, is Logan O'Hoppe. He's had 144 plate appearances from the sixth spot. That's the second highest sample size after batting fifth, which he wasn't great at batting fifth.
Right.
But at the sixth spot, he's a 286 hitter, 336 on base, 511 slugging, and an 847 OPS. Now, he did put up more home runs and RBIs from the fifth spot, but that might be more by virtue of just having more chances at the fifth spot, plate appearances. He's got a 138 weighted runs created plus from the sixth spot, not too far behind in terms of home runs and RBIs from number 6 as opposed to number 5. But number 6, he's definitely more consistent and more successful.
Number 7, the best hitter at number 7, best spot is Yoan Moncada. He is somebody who historically has been at the top of the lineup, especially with his time with the White Sox. But he's number 7, and for a couple of reasons. One, we don't have much of a relevant sample size from the last few years since he's been hurt. But 2, the number of plate appearances he's had in the 7th spot over his career is close to the sample sizes we've got from like Sean O'Well and O'Hoppe. So in his career, Moncada at number 7 in the lineup is hitting 268, 310 on base, 427 slugging percentage, and a 737 OPS.
And then batting 8th, according to historical data, is Joe Adell. Let's assume that Joe Adell is going to be the guy he was with changing the way he was hitting at the plate, the changes and the mechanics and the toe tap stuff is gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's assume that that's who he's going to be coming into this season. Mike, he's actually a little bit better at 7th, but not by much. But still at 8th, he has 19 RBIs versus 22 at the 7th spot. He also struck out less from the 8th spot. And at 8th, Joe Adell hit 223, had a 282 on base and a 348 slugging. Not great numbers,
right?
But not really great numbers anywhere in the order for Joe Adell at this point. So 8th is an interesting spot for him. And then finally, batting 9th, Nolan Schanuel in 2024. Schanuel had the most plate appearances from the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd spot. And the sample size at 9 is very small. But let's imagine that he can take what he did well at the 2nd spot as an on-base guy and make that into something from number 9. Now, his average in OPS was not great at number 2, but there's 2 things that we're going to highlight. Of the first 3 spots, Nolan's best on-base percentage, walk rate, WOBA, and WRC plus are the highest at number 2. 375 on-base percentage, 17.5 walk rate, 329 weighted on-base average, a 113 weighted runs created plus. If he could take the things he did well at the 2 spot and do them well down at number 9, let's get him in front of Jorge Soler, who's leading off. So to summarize, this is the player's best spot in the order version of the lineup. Number 1, leading off, Jorge Soler. Number 2 is Rengifo. Mike Trout is batting 3rd. Taylor Ward is batting cleanup. Kevin Newman batting 5th. Logan O'Hoppe batting 6th. Yohan Moncada batting 7th. Joe Adell batting 8th. And Nolan Schanuel batting 9th.
Now, you probably noticed that there were a couple of names missing in this lineup. And so let me give you a couple of additional notes. This is the addendum at the end of this conversation. So Zach Neto's best spot in the order would be 8 based on his performances. Now, Ron Washington talked about lineups and said that he probably wants him to be maybe 5th in this lineup. Moniak's best slot is 7 in the lineup. That was his best spot last year. So you could consider maybe moving some pieces around. You could also consider a swap of Schanuel and Rengifo at 2 and at 9. And then Travis d'Arnaud is going to play a lot. We know he's going to be in there, give O'Hoppe some time to rest, maybe O'Hoppe at DH. Most of his plate appearances have come from the 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 spots. His best spot, though, is 6 or 8 in the lineup. And since 6 is one of his better spots, it really could just be a swap of O'Hoppe for d'Arnaud when d'Arnaud is starting for the Halos.
So that's their best spot historically based on past performances kind of lineup. It's an interesting one. And so again, that's strictly based on where do these guys perform the best and at what spot in the order do they perform the best. So a lot of things to consider there. I think, like you mentioned, Taylor Ward is going to be leading off, but he is a great cleanup guy. So that's the first lineup that we're going to consider. And we want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we're going to talk about an analytical lineup. Which spots in the order fit the best profiles and which Angels fit those profiles analytically. We'll get into all of that in just a minute.
Well, when the NBA game tips off, you can get in on all of the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. They're going to let you place live bets throughout the game, even if you miss the opening tip-off. Or if you want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can do that as well with FanDuel. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. And this app is really easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. And right now, FanDuel customers, new FanDuel customers, can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit their website, FanDuel.com. Again, FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. You can make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And every dayers, we appreciate you making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're continuing our conversation of what could the Halos lineup look like in 2025. We just went through what everybody's best spot in the order, that version of the lineup might look like. We're going to look at an analytical lineup here in just a second. And then, Mike, an interesting lineup in our third segment that we like to call the 1 through 10 lineup. So a little bit of a tease there, but Mike, let's get into the analytical lineup. What if the Angels built their lineup based on Analytics. We're going to use Baseball Savant, StatCast, and Fangraphs to help us build the Halos lineup. We'll tell you what kind of player you want at that position, and then the profile that fits that position, and then which player fits that profile. So, Mike, why don't you talk about leading off?
Yeah, you want someone with a high on-base percentage, somebody with some good speed, right? And somebody that can make some contact because you want them to get on base either by the walk or with a hit. Someone who has great plate discipline that can see the ball well, someone with great contact rates, a great walk rate, and again, speed at the top of the order. So who is that on the Angels? Well, that's Taylor Ward. Probably why Ron Washington has put him there. He's above average in contact rate. His on-base percentage can hit 350 or more. His walk rate is between 9.5% to 11%. He does make good swing decisions according to the stats, and you do sacrifice some speed. I know when we said speed in the Taylor Ward, a lot of everydayers went, "What? That's not the case, right?" But you're sacrificing some speed with Taylor Ward at the top of the order, but he is a more well-rounded player at that top spot, and I think that he was probably the best decision. If you look at all of the potential starters, he's the best decision for who you want leading off in a game.
Now, batting second, you want your best overall hitter who brings a combo of good on base percentage, slugging, and then an expected weighted on base average. Who's that in this situation? Well, the best overall hitter on the team, obviously, Mike Trout. You're going to maximize his plate appearances over the course of the season by putting him second. He's the top hitter in one of the top hitters in Major League Baseball for expected WOBA. Now, remember, WOBA, weighted on base average, gives a score for how the hitter gets on base. So it ranks a hit versus a home run versus a walk, that sort of thing. Mike, he's historically been one of the top players in on base percentage when he gets a full healthy season. And then, of course, you want that slugging profile in there. He hits for a ton of power, whether it's doubles, triples, or home runs. So the best overall hitter, batting second, Mike Trout.
Batting third, you want a combination of power and on-base percentage, and that is Jorge Soler, 30 home run potential. He's got a really good walk rate. In fact, last year, he was in the 92nd percentile with an 11.8% walk rate, which is really good. And he's got a strong expected WOBA, 346, which was in the 83rd percentile. So that's number three, Jorge Soler. John, tell us about who's going to bat cleanup according to the stats, the analytics.
Now, traditionally, you want a slugger here to drive in some runs. However, the Angels situation, they have somebody who can help extend the inning and not be a rally killer batting fourth. Mike, you might be surprised to find that Nolan Shawnuel actually fits the batting fourth profile pretty well because of his high contact rate, 86.8% contact rate. He makes a ton of contact in the strike zone, 90.7. He's above average in walk rate, K rate, and on base percentage. All of these things help him not to be a rally killer. So he's going to put the ball in play. He's going to move a runner, even if it's a ground out, Mike. He's going to put the ball in play, move runners, and not be a rally killer. And he's going to do that by either getting on base or making contact, making a base hit.
And if he gets on base, then the fifth hitter is almost like a secondary cleanup hitter that can help continue to move the runners over, maybe even clear the bases. Ideally, you want an aggressive hitter with power, good slugging percentage, hard hit percentage, on-base percentage. So who is that on the Angels? It's Jo Adell, John. He's got a hard hit percentage, 45.2%. He's an aggressive swinger in the zone, over 70%. That's above league average. And he can do some damage with RBIs and with slugging. And by the way, I know his batting average was low last year. Remember that he had a huge slump and then he made an adjustment. And when he made the adjustment, his batting average for the rest of the year was in the 270 area. So this guy made a good adjustment. So the overall number, if you're looking at that, it's actually fool's gold because Jo Adell from end of June, July on was a 270 hitter. And that's when he put up some of his best numbers. And according to the analytics, he'd be great at number 5.
Batting sixth, you want a balanced hitter, according to the analytics. A strong combination of power, on base, and contact skills. Someone who can be a run producer. In this case, Zach Neto. Obviously, we know he's an RBI producer. But Mike, he still has his injury to deal with. So let's consider how this team will start the year. That means we're going to put Yoan Moncada batting 6. He's got around a 10% walk rate historically. And when he's healthy, he puts up some really decent slugging numbers. So getting on base and putting up some power is what you want out of the 6th spot.
Yeah, number 7, you want a free swinger, someone with power but doesn't have strikeout concerns. And that, according to the numbers, John, is Logan O'Hoppe. We hope that O'Hoppe can lower his K percentage, but we also know that he can produce from this spot, especially with some power. So according to the analytics, batting 7th, Logan O'Hoppe.
Yeah, even though he has that power and the strikeout concerns, it's okay because that's the kind of person you want from that 7th spot. Batting 8th, a contact focus hitter, someone with a low strikeout rate and an above average contact rate. In this case, Mike, it's Kevin Newman. Historically, he's got a low strikeout rate, typically 10% lower than league average.
Right.
And then he's got a strong contact rate. He's a career 86.7% contact rate, which is about 10% higher than league average. So in both directions, K rate and contact rate, Kevin Newman is 10% better than league average over the course of his career.
And then the 9th batter is someone you want as a secondary leadoff hitter, speed, on base percentage. Not surprised at this one, according to the stats. It's Luis Rengifo. He's hitting for average. He can steal some bags. John, in the small amount of games he played last year, 70 plus games, 20 plus stolen bases. So imagine him playing a full season and what he can do. And he's really adjusted his swing to be more contact oriented as a hitter. And so Luis Rengifo, according to the stats, is the best hitter at number 9 for the Halos.
Now, to summarize the analytics-based lineup, these are the guys that fit the profiles well. It's Taylor Ward leading off, Mike Trout batting 2nd, Jorge Soler batting 3rd, Nolan Shawnoel batting 4th, Joe Adell batting 5th, Yoan Moncada batting 6th, Logan O'Hoppe batting 7th, Kevin Newman batting 8th, and Luis Rengifo batting 9th. So again, these guys, the 1 through 9, have certain profiles they need to fit based on the analytics, and those guys slot in the closest and match those profiles the closest. And so that's another lineup for you guys to consider, and we'll continue our conversation with the next lineup here in just a minute.
At work yesterday, had a meeting, and then I had another meeting, and then I had another meeting, and it's easy for us as a team to grab like all the chewy gummies and candy and all of those things. And so we're trying to be better, more well-behaved. In fact, we're maturing, John. We're growing up. And so we actually, to our meeting, we brought wonderful pistachios. We brought the non-shelled and we brought the in-shelled, and it was great. And here's what I love about wonderful pistachios. They're a good source of protein. In fact, they're one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. And they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller a whole lot longer. And it was helpful in those meetings because we were there. It seemed like forever having conversations that were important. But with the no-shell variety, you can pop them in your mouth. It's perfect for when you're talking, then you take a break, throw it in your mouth, chew, and then talk again at the meeting. The in-shelled is great for thinking, John. I loved that because I pull it out, I'm trying to break it down and then popping it in my mouth. But it gave me a moment to think and respond to what somebody was sharing with me. So get snackin, get crackin, whether you're at home or whether you're on the road or whether you're in a meeting with the snack that packs a protein punch. It's Wonderful Pistachios. Visit their website, wonderfulpistachios.com, to learn more.
Mike, we came across an interesting conversation happening on Twitter this past week regarding lineups. And it began with a tweet from Kin Knows Ball. And he, of course, hosts a podcast. Looks like he's a Yankees fan, but he had a really interesting tweet and some data to back that up. And this is what he had to say. This is why your best hitter should not bat 3rd. The 3 spot in the lineup comes up with 2 outs and no runners on far more than any other spot in the lineup. The 3 hole is a filler spot where you can put your 5th best hitter. Now, you might hear that and go, what are you talking about? But then there was a chart that was backed up by some MLB data people. And he included this chart to demonstrate how often a 3 hole hitter comes up to bat with 2 outs and nobody on. And this was, of course, over the course of 2023. Mike, 3-hole hitters came up with 2 outs and nobody on in 2023 4,630 times.
Wow.
Across Major League Baseball. Turns out that's nearly double all the other spots in the batting order. So that kind of led us down this rabbit hole, and we discovered a tweet from Ryan M. Spader. He's an MLB analyst, and he's a best-selling author of Incredible Baseball Stats, so you can trust Ryan when you hear this. Here's what he had to say. The best player on every single team should bat leadoff in every single game. In 2024, across Major League Baseball, leadoff hitters had 10,711 plate appearances with the potential to either tie the game or take the lead 957 more times than 3-hole hitters.
Wow.
This included additional opportunities in high leverage scenarios. So he gave us a little bit of a list here that I appreciated. Plate appearances with the ability to tie the game or take the lead across MLB in 2024 during the entire game. So again, this goes back to all games, all situations. Batting first, either to take the lead or tie the game, gives you 10,711 opportunities. Batting third was only 9,754 opportunities. So it's about a 10% more chance for the leadoff guy to come up in a situation to make a difference, tie the game, or take the lead. And then, Mike, he's got some stats here about the first inning, doesn't he?
Yeah. Batting first, the opportunity to tie the game or take the lead. The chances last season were over 6,130 opportunities. But if you're batting third, the chances were about 5,000 opportunities, 5,426. So the chances of, if your best hitter's hitting first rather than third, it goes up 12, almost 13% that they're going to tie the game, have the chance to tie the game, or maybe take the lead. And it's why he says this is a wise decision to put your best hitter at number 1.
Then from the 7th inning onward, guys batting first have 9.71% more opportunities to tie the game or take the lead than batting third. And then from the 9th inning on, 685 chances versus 604 chances. And so 13.41% for the leadoff guy above. That's the percentage increase in chances to tie the game or take the lead from the 9th inning onward. So the conclusion is clear. This is what Ryan had to say. Maximize your best player's impact on the game. You want them in the most crucial situations. The leadoff spot creates more opportunities to influence the outcome, whether early in the game, late in the game, or in high leverage moments. By placing your best player at the top of the lineup, you're ensuring they receive the maximum number of chances to make a difference, especially when they can change the course of the game. Then one of the criticisms that he had to address of this approach was that you're guaranteeing your best hitter comes up once per game with the bases empty because, of course, they're starting the game off at leadoff. However, Ryan Spader suggests using a 1 through 10 approach and then uses Bryce Harper and the Phillies as a good example of what he means. So imagine you have Bryce Harper at the top of the order, and then you have Bryce Harper as your number 10 hitter at the bottom of the order. Here's what Spader had to say. You get Harper leading off and essentially in a 3-hole spot before you make 10 outs in a game every single time. Your best hitter up first, then you focus on the back end of your lineup with traditional style 1 and 2 hitters to set him up to come up as a 3-hole like hitter his second time up. So, Mike, if we took this approach from Ryan Spader with Mike Trout and combine it with the fact that the 3-hole hitter comes up with 2 outs most often in baseball, what could we imagine this 1 through 10 lineup looking like?
It would start with Mike Trout, then Taylor Ward. Nolan Shonawell is going to bat third. Jorge Soler 4. Logan O'Hoppe follows, then Yoan Moncada, then a combination of Joe Adell, Mickey Moniak if they platoon, right? Kevin Newman's going to follow that, then Luis Rengifo, and then the quote-unquote number 10 in the order would be Mike Trout, according to these statistics.
Yeah, so if you think about two leadoff guys at the end of your order, Newman and Rengifo, 8 and 9. You set Mike up for cleaning up, doing the damage you would want him to do at the third spot.
Yeah.
With those two guys in front of him. So, Mike, I'm going to put this up on the screen for our everydayers watching on the video side. We have the three potential lineups, the best spot in the order, the analytical lineup, and then the 1 through 10 lineup. Which of these three do you like the most?
I am going to always go with whatever you can do to get Mike Trout the most opportunities to knock in runs, because remember the year that he had 40 home runs, I think he had 80 RBIs, right?
Yeah,
and so
it was sad. Yeah.
They're already not on base in front of him anyway. So I think that you have to go to the 1 through 10 lineup philosophy with the Halos, specifically with Mike Trout, to give him the most opportunities to do the most damage. So in my opinion, I think the 1 through 10 quote unquote lineup is probably the best for the Halos, and specifically the best for someone like Mike Trout. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that one's a lot of fun to think about. I do get concerned about, is there any, maybe the Moncada, Joe Adell, Mickey Moniak part of the order is a little bit of a hole, but you also have that in the analytical lineup, and you also have that in the best spot in the order lineup. So I'm between best spot in the order. I do like what I'm seeing there, with Soler leading off, Trout batting third, Sean Noel at the end there. But the 1 through 10 is really fun. And if it maximizes the amount of plate appearances that Mike Trout can get and do damage with, then I think I'm a fan of the 1 through 10 lineup. But we want to hear from you, our everydayers. We'll put a little poll out there. Which lineup do you find the most fun or the most interesting or the most effective? Best spot in the order, the analytical lineup, or the 1 through 10 lineup? Let us know in the comments section, or hop on over to our social media and let us know what you think there as well.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB with our friend Sully. You can find his show on YouTube or wherever you download or listen to podcasts.
Hey, like I just mentioned, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube. Get in the comment section, hit that like button, and subscribe. We're hoping for 10K subscribers by opening day. Mike, speaking of opening day, we're not quite there yet, but we have some games this weekend, don't we?
Yeah, we're going to watch the games for you. If you can't watch the games, even if you do watch the games, we're going to recap those games on Monday, just because there were games that were played and we get to recap that. But there's also a lot of conversation to be had on Monday and throughout next week. So join us on Monday on Locked On Angels.
All right, we're looking forward to that, and we hope you have a great weekend. Until Monday, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Monday.
You shared a lot of stats, John, and you didn't do one thing. You didn't say, buckle up, nerds.
Buckle up, nerds. Dang, I forgot.